They say small towns keep your secrets. Ashford keeps them like a vault and spends them like gossip. I'm Draven North, 40, born under a barn roof in a thunderstorm, raised on soil that still remembers the weight of my mother's boots. My land is 70 acres of corn, a strip of creek, and a red barn that leans like a tired uncle when the wind comes hard from the west. It's late April 2021, the kind of spring that smells like wet hay and diesel. I start my mornings the same way, coffee in a chipped mug, fingers along the porch rail, eyes on the eastern field. That field is my timeline. Green fuzz to August gold, harvest to thaw. Everything I am is measured by it. On that morning, a white envelope waits in the mailbox like a toothache. County seal, heavy paper. Bad news has a texture. Notice of intent, it says. Proposed rezoning. Public hearing in 2 weeks. My throat goes dry and stubborn. Rezoning means development. Development means bulldozers. Bulldozers mean my father's handmade fence unspooled from the earth like it never mattered. I carry the letter inside. My husband Eli is at the kitchen table, boots on, pretending not to watch me read. He's 39, jaw like a clean line drawn with a ruler, eyes that used to make me feel safe, then clever, then lately, small. He works construction, knows everyone who knows everyone, and when he smiles, he wins. What's that? He asks, casual, like you ask the weather if it plans to rain. I hold the letter up. County wants to rezone our parcel. Mixed use, fast. He lifts his coffee. That's not a bad thing, babe. Could raise property values. I stare at him. Our property isn't an investment portfolio, it's our life. He shrugs, and in that shrug is a whole argument he doesn't want to have. You should go to the hearing. Say your piece. Say my piece. As if my voice against a room full of suits could be anything but a polite pause before the inevitable. After he leaves, I walk the fence line to steady the panic. Fence posts, thistles, the second gate that sticks. I touch everything like it's about to be taken and needs my fingerprints to remember me. By noon, word has already made the loop. Feed store to diner to salon and back again. In small towns, news doesn't travel. It circulates. At the diner, Mayor Clay Weston holds court like he was born on a stage. He's a big man in a small chair, belt buckle the size of a saucer, grin trained for cameras. Widowed last year, he leaned into the sympathy long enough to convert it into favors. Draven, he booms when I pass, like we're old friends and not two people with opposite definitions of progress. Come sit. Let's talk Ashford's future. I prefer Ashford's roots, I say. But I sit anyway, because you learn to be polite to power even when you don't respect it. He spreads a map on the table. Lines, colors, boxes. My land is a pale yellow rectangle with a red border. Mixed-use village center, he says. Shops, townhomes, a green space named for your daddy if you want it. North Park. Has a ring. My heartbeat is a drum. You can keep the ring. You're not getting the land. He tips his head, sympathetic as a loan shark. Progress is coming whether we like it or not. Best to get in early. I feel 16 again, all fight and trembling, the way I did when I told my father I'd keep the farm after he died, and Aunt Lillian said, "A girl shouldn't carry a farm." I carried it anyway. When I get home, a black SUV is parked by the barn. Out steps Harlan Pike, the kind of man who calls himself a connector. He runs Pike Development and wears cologne like a flag. "Ms. North," he says, all teeth, "I believe we can make each other very happy." "Try me," I say, already tired. He names a number. It's not small. It's not big enough either. "I'm not selling," I say. He doesn't frown. He recalculates. "Your husband might see the merits at least." Something cold moves behind my ribs. Eli doesn't own this land. "Of course," he says, "but marriage is partnership." After he leaves, I stand in the kitchen and stare at the old deed framed on the wall. My father's name, then mine. No blank spaces, no signatures missing. I call Eli. He doesn't pick up. He texts instead. At the site, late dinner, don't wait. I want to believe it. I want to be the version of me that trusts the version of him who used to leave flowers on the porch in mason jars. But wanting is not a strategy. That night, I can't sleep. The house is a clock, the kind that counts down instead of up. At 12:14 a.m., a thought lands with the weight of a confession. Eli knew. How? Because he didn't flinch. Because he had arguments ready. Because Harlan said, "Your husband." I get up, barefoot, and pad to the mudroom where Eli keeps a few things he thinks I never touch. Old toolboxes, a cooler, the glove box junk from the truck when he cleans it, and a battered manila folder with construction bids and receipts. At the bottom of the folder is a slip of paper I've never seen. A business card. Pike Development. Harlan's name. On the back, in Eli's handwriting, Tuesday, Clay, 7 p.m., back entrance. Back entrance of what? City Hall? The school gym where council meets when the AC at City Hall gives up? My mouth tastes like metal. I take a photo and put the card back exactly where I found it. 2 days creep by. I do chores in a haze, break the skin on my knuckles fixing a hinge, and catch myself whispering to the barn, "Stay." On Thursday, Eli says he'll be out late. "Bid review," he says, not looking at me. At 6:58 p.m., I park behind the library that shares a wall with City Hall. I move like a shadow. The back entrance is employees only with a keypad. A woman exits with a stack of files, holds the door with her hip to adjust her grip, and I slip in with a nod that says, "I belong." Down the hall, voices echo from the old records room. Clay's slow drawl, Harlan's slick baritone, and a third voice I know better than my own. Eli. I stand just beyond the door, where a sliver of space between hinges shows slices of men in a fluorescent cave. It smells like dust and paper and something sour I can't name. Clay says, "We'll need a hardship clause. If she won't sell, we pivot to eminent domain. Public benefit. We got the traffic study cooked." Harlan. "And the LLC transfer? We need a clean line to the parcel." Eli. "She'll sign if I bring it right." Clay. "And if she won't?" Eli is quiet long enough for the fluorescent lights to buzz louder. Then he says, soft like the man who once whispered vows into my hair, "Everyone signs eventually." My body goes cold and then hot and back again. There's a roaring in my ears and I realize it's my pulse trying to punch its way out. Clay laughs. "We all want the same thing: growth, stability, a tax base. You get a cut on the subcontracting, Eli. We keep the narrative tidy." Narrative. They're writing a story where I'm the villain of my own home. The rest is numbers and timelines and names of people who will look the other way for a yard sign and a handshake. They mention the hearing like it's already won. They mention the town paper like it's already written. When the meeting breaks, I run before voices hit the hall. Outside, I lean against my truck and try to breathe through a throat that wants to close. He was supposed to be my witness, the person who saw me. Instead, he's become a mirror that refuses to show me back. On the drive home, everything is louder. The tires, the creak, the frogs rehearsing their dark chorus. In the kitchen, I pull the deed from the frame and slide it into a Ziploc bag like a relic. I don't cry, not yet. Crying is for after, when there's time. Instead, I make a list. Who on council owes my father a favor? Who on council owes Clay a bigger one? Which neighbors love their view more than they love free Wi-Fi? At 2:03 a.m., I hear Eli's truck crunch the gravel. Headlights sweep the front room, catch me at the table, make a ghost of me for a second, and then let me be human again. He steps in, all cologne and casual. "Couldn't sleep?" he asks, like we are still us. "I listened to you at City Hall," I say. He freezes, then recovers into a shrug that tries to be innocent and lands somewhere south of that. "Babe, don't," I say, and my voice is a blade I didn't know I kept sharpened. He opens his mouth to lie or to justify. Maybe both. But before either can happen, the house groans, and we both hear it. A hollow knock upstairs, as if something shifted in the attic. We've stored boxes up there since my father died. Ledgers, seed catalogs, maps, things labeled in his square hand. Eli's eyes flick up, then back to me, quick and guilty, like the look of a man who remembers where he hid something and who it belongs to. I stand. Stay here, I say. He doesn't. He follows me up the stairs. The attic smells like cedar and dust. Under the low bulb, I see what moved. A cardboard box slid open, its flaps pushed back by something heavier than paper. Inside is a stack of rolled maps bound with old twine and a folder stamped in red. County, confidential. On top, a sticky note in a hand I don't know. Phase 2. Annexation targets. My heart climbs into my mouth. I hear Eli exhale, a sound that isn't surprise. Draven, he says, voice soft. Warning or plea, I can't tell. I reach for the folder, and downstairs, through the thin spring night, a car door shuts outside. Another visitor. Headlights sweep across our bedroom ceiling like a lighthouse searching for shipwrecks. I look at Eli. He looks at the stairs. Footsteps start up the porch. I tuck the confidential folder under my arm and turn off the attic light. The house holds its breath. The house is quiet in that heavy, listening way. Every floorboard feels like it might betray me. Through the attic window, I see the car parked by the barn. Headlights still glowing, engine still ticking. Whoever it is, they're not in a hurry. Eli whispers, "It's Clay." Like naming him makes the threat smaller. I clutch the confidential folder tighter. If it is, why is he here at midnight? We wait. The footsteps come, measured, deliberate, like a man who knows exactly where the porch creaks and where it doesn't. That detail burns me. Someone has walked this path before. Then, knock. Not loud, not timid. 3 times. Eli moves toward the stairs. I grab his arm. You let me handle it. His jaw works, like he wants to argue. But I don't give him the air to do it. I walk down alone, folder hidden under my sweatshirt, heart thumping like a boot in a dryer. At the door stands Harlan Pike. His cologne hits before his voice does. "Evening, Ms. North," he says smoothly, as though midnight were afternoon. "Apologies for the hour. Thought we might discuss terms." "Terms?" My voice is sharper than glass. "You picked a strange time for business." He smiles, leaning one hand against the doorframe, casual but blocking. "I find evenings productive. Less distractions." His eyes dart behind me, searching for Eli. I square my shoulders. "Whatever deal you think you've made with my husband, it ends here." That makes him chuckle, low and amused. "Marriage is trust, Draven. If Eli trusts me, shouldn't you?" I slam the door before he can finish. The sound echoes through the house, through my bones. Eli is halfway down the stairs, face pale. "What did he want?" "What do you think he wanted?" I snap. "He wanted me to fold, same as you." His mouth opens, closes. No words, just silence. The kind that confirms more than denial ever could. I retreat to the kitchen, rip the folder open, and spill the contents on the table. Maps, legal drafts, annexation charts, and, worse, a list of parcels marked for seizure. It's not just my land, it's half the valley. Families I've known since I was 5, names written in neat black ink, beside numbers and dates, like we're livestock. I whisper to myself, they're selling us off piece by piece. Eli edges closer. "You don't understand." I whirl on him. "Then explain. Explain why your name is penciled next to subcontract bids. Explain why my father's land is highlighted like a prize hog." He runs a hand over his face. "They promised security, Draven. For us. For the town. You think people want to stay here forever? They want jobs. Stability. I'm trying to give that." "No," I cut in. "You're trying to give yourself a paycheck." He winces. And in that wince, I see truth. The silence grows heavier. Outside, Harlan's car engine turns over, headlights sweeping once more before he drives away. I gather the papers into piles. Evidence. That's what this is now. Not dreams, not negotiations. Evidence. But evidence means nothing if no one sees it. And in Ashford, everyone who could act is already bought. I need someone bigger, someone untouchable, someone beyond county lines. I whisper it like a prayer. The press. Eli hears. His head snaps up. You wouldn't? I look him dead in the eye. I would. His lips tighten. For the first time in years, he looks at me not like a wife, not like a partner, but like an opponent. The weight of that settles heavy, but it doesn't break me. It steals me. I start sorting. Maps, receipts, signatures. Everything that shows corruption isn't just rumor, but record. Everything that proves Ashford is being gutted from the inside out. Eli mutters, almost pleading, "You'll burn everything down." "Better ash than chains," I whisper back. The grandfather clock in the hall ticks past 3 a.m. My mind hums with urgency. Where do I start? Who do I trust? And then, like an answer I didn't know I was waiting for, my phone buzzes. A message from an unknown number. "We should talk. Tomorrow. Old Mill, 9 a.m. Bring what you found. F." My breath catches. Someone knows. But who is F? Friend? Foe? I stare at the screen, the words glowing like embers in the dark. And upstairs, Eli whispers to himself, loud enough for me to hear. She wasn't supposed to find it this fast. The chill that runs down my spine tells me one thing. The clock just started ticking louder. Morning comes pale and gray like the sky is undecided. I barely sleep. The folder stays under my pillow like a loaded weapon. By 8, Eli's already gone. No note, no word. His absence feels louder than his presence ever could. I drive the old Ford down County Road 7, gravel spitting beneath the tires. The mill sits at the edge of Ashford, rusting like a skeleton too stubborn to collapse. I used to play here as a kid, hide and seek among broken beams, daring each other to climb higher. Now it looks like a place where secrets go to rot. At 8:59, I kill the engine. The lot is empty except for a gray sedan tucked in the shade of a busted silo. A figure steps out. Not Clay, not Harlan. A woman. She looks maybe late 30s, hair cut sharp, jacket that says city more than farm. She holds no folder, no notebook, just a phone, and eyes that study me like a puzzle. "You're Draven?" she asks. I nod, hand tight on my satchel. "And you're F?" She smiles, not wide, not warm. Fiona Lane, investigative reporter, Midwest Herald. Her name clicks. I've seen it under headlines that made people squirm. Corruption, embezzlement, small-town deals exposed like termites under wood. "Why are you here?" I ask. She tilts her phone, shows a text thread. "Your number. The message I got. Except I didn't send it." I swallow hard. Then who did? "That's what I'd like to know," she says calmly. "But if someone wanted us talking, I'm not opposed." "You said you had documents?" I hesitate. Trust is a currency I'm broke in. But the pages in my satchel weigh heavy. They don't belong in the dark anymore. I unzip, slide the folder halfway across the hood of her car. "Take a look." She flips through. Maps, annexation lists, signatures. Her face hardens. "This is bigger than rezoning," she mutters. "This is laundering public trust. Eminent domain for profit." Her eyes cut to mine. "Draven, you realize if this checks out, you'll be a target. Clay doesn't play clean." "I already am," I say. "They've marked me for erasure. I'd rather go down swinging." She studies me a moment longer, then nods. "I'll verify, but I'll need more than paper. Voices, faces, people willing to talk." I laugh bitterly. In Ashford, everyone's bought or scared. "Then find the cracks," Fiona says simply. "Fear keeps people quiet until it doesn't. Someone will talk. Find them." Before I can answer, her phone buzzes. She glances, frowns, then shows me the screen. A text. Unknown number. "You shouldn't be here. Leave before 10. My blood chills. We both glance at the mill. Its broken windows stare back like empty eyes. Then I hear it. Another engine. Not on the main road. From behind the mill. Fiona snaps the folder shut, slides it back to me. "Hide it!" she hisses. I shove it under the truck seat as a black SUV rolls out from behind the mill. Slow, deliberate. Same model Harlan drove last night. The tinted window slides down. Harlan's grin gleams, oily and amused. "Well," he drawls, "didn't expect a field trip today." Eli is in the passenger seat. He won't look at me. He stares straight ahead, jaw locked, shame or fear, or both, painted on his face. Fiona steps closer to me, her voice low. "Don't let them see you break." But inside, my pulse is chaos. Because if Eli's here, it means one thing. He knew I'd come. And if he knew, then someone set me up. The SUV idles, exhaust curling like smoke from a gun. Harlan taps the side of the door, casual as a cat with a cornered bird. "You should have taken the offer, Draven," he says. "Now, you've made things complicated." The clock on my dashboard clicks to 9:59, 1 minute before the warning. Fiona squeezes my wrist just once, steady, grounding. "Stand your ground," she whispers. The SUV door opens, boots hit gravel, and I know the next move will decide everything. Boots scrape against gravel. Every crunch feels like a countdown. Harlan steps out first, polished, smug, cologne trailing. Behind him, another man climbs down, broader, face like stone. Security. Eli doesn't move. He sits in the SUV like a statue someone forgot to finish carving. His stillness hurts worse than Harlan's grin. "Morning stroll?" Harlan calls, too casual. "Strange spot for it." Fiona stands straighter, her voice cold. "You're trespassing." Harlan chuckles. "Funny word, trespassing. This land won't belong to anyone for long. Just blueprints and signatures. Then progress." I feel the folder under my seat like a live wire. Every instinct screams to protect it. Harlan's eyes flick to me. "Draven, we're giving you chances most people would beg for. Don't confuse pride with wisdom." I hear myself say, steady, "I'd rather choke on pride than starve on your wisdom." The security man shifts, cracking his knuckles like punctuation. Fiona mutters, barely audible, "Don't escalate." But I already have. Harlan tilts his head, eyes narrowing. "You've been talking to people? Careful. Ashford has long memories." "Good," I snap, "so they'll remember who sold them out." Something flickers in Eli's eyes at that. Not guilt. Fear. As if he knows just how deep the sellout goes. Fiona lifts her phone, snapping a photo quick as lightning. The shutter sound breaks the tension like a gunshot. Security lunges forward, hand out. "Delete that," he growls. Fiona doesn't flinch. "Touch me, and you'll see this picture on every national feed in 2 hours. Cloud backup, instant." For the first time, Harlan's mask cracks. Just a hairline, but I see it. The worry. He smooths it over quick. "Fine, have your fun." But fun ends fast. He turns, signaling the guard back. Before climbing in, he leans close enough for me to smell his cologne, his voice a whisper meant only for me. "You won't survive this fight." Then he's gone, SUV pulling out slow, deliberate, like a predator that doesn't need to rush because it knows where you sleep. Silence swells. The mill creaks in the wind. A dying witness. Fiona exhales. They're rattled. That's good. It means they're vulnerable. I sink against my truck, shaking now that the danger has passed. My knuckles are white against the satchel strap. "You don't know this town," I tell her. "They control everything. Council, paper, sheriff. People won't speak." "Then we dig harder," she says firmly. "Every machine has a weak gear. We'll find it." I study her face. Sharp, relentless. She's not here for comfort. She's here for war. And maybe that's what I need. "I'll start with the records," I say slowly. "There are old ledgers in my attic. My father kept everything. Transactions, crop shares, even side deals the mayor's office tried to push. If Clay's been at this game longer than I thought, it'll be in there." Fiona nods. "Good. Paper trails bury men faster than bullets." I glance toward the road where the SUV disappeared. Dust still lingers. Then let's bury them, I whisper. But even as I say it, my phone buzzes. Another unknown number. You have until Sunday. After that, the land isn't yours to lose anymore. Fiona reads over my shoulder. Her face hardens. They just drew the line, she says. And I know, so did I. That night, the attic feels less like storage and more like a tomb. Dust rises in the beam of my flashlight as I drag out the boxes labeled in my father's blocky handwriting. North Farm, taxes 1990-2010, town council notes, seed orders. I kneel on the floorboards, flipping through ledgers brittle with time. My father never trusted digital. He believed ink remembered what men wanted to forget. Halfway through a tax book from '96, I find a page folded twice. Inside, receipts stamped with the mayor's office seal. Payments for consulting. Amounts too large for services too vague. Clay's signature scrawled at the bottom. My stomach twists. This isn't new. Clay's been lining his pockets since before I was old enough to drink. I keep digging. In an envelope wedged between maps, I find minutes from a closed council session. Handwritten, not official. My father's notes. Discussion of annexation, Weston pushing, objections silenced, threats implied. The date makes my throat tighten. May 2001. They tried this 20 years ago, and my father must have known. Did he keep quiet to protect me? To protect the land? Or did he think he'd outlast them? The floorboard creaks behind me. I whirl around. Eli stands at the top of the stairs, half in shadow. You shouldn't dig, he says softly. The flashlight beam cuts across his face. His eyes look hollow, dark. You knew, I whisper. Even back then, didn't you? He doesn't answer, just steps closer, voice low. I tried to stop it. Once. But you don't stop Clay. You don't stop Pike. You join them or you get crushed. I slam the ledger shut. And you chose joining. His jaw clenches. I chose survival. No, I spit. You chose betrayal. Silence stretches, broken only by the wind moaning through attic cracks. Finally, Eli's voice cracks too. Draven. If you go public, they'll come after you, and I can't protect you anymore. The words slice deeper than if he'd pulled a knife. Not won't. Can't. I push past him, clutching the ledgers and notes like lifelines. If you're not standing with me, then you're already against me. Downstairs, I spread everything across the kitchen table. Fiona meets me there an hour later, laptop open, typing fast. This is gold, she says. Decades of corruption. Enough to burn Clay twice over. Her eyes flick up. But you need witnesses. These ledgers alone won't topple him. I rake my hands through my hair. There's no one. There's always someone, Fiona insists. Think. Who hated Clay enough to keep receipts? I hesitate. A face surfaces in my mind. Martha, my father's old bookkeeper. She left town 10 years ago, muttering that Ashford was poison. I glance at Fiona. She might still be alive. Cincinnati, maybe. Fiona leans in. Then we find her. Before I can answer, a sharp thunk hits the porch. We freeze. Another thunk. Then glass shatters. The front window explodes inward. A brick lands on the floor, wrapped in paper. Fiona grabs it, unrolls the note. Stop digging or we bury you. The wind blows the curtains, scattering ledger pages across the floor. My father's handwriting mixes with the threat, past and present colliding. And I realize, the ghosts in these ledgers aren't just history. They're warnings. Fiona's voice is low, urgent. They've escalated. You ready for this to get ugly? I stare at the shattered window, fist tight around the brick. I was born ready. They just forgot. But deep inside, a darker thought gnaws. If Martha won't talk, if no one will stand with me, then maybe the only way to end this is to drag Clay and Eli into the light myself. We drove through dawn-smudged fields and left Ashford like someone slipping out of a house they meant to burn down later. The old Ford rattled confidence until the interstate smoothed it out, and then it just hummed. A steady, ordinary sound that felt like a lie. Fiona rode with me, laptop balanced on her knees, eyes bright with the kind of hunger reporters get when a story smells like rot. Eli stayed home. He said he had work to do. He kissed my cheek like he'd always done, and I let the warmth hold for half a breath before it went cold. Cincinnati was loud in the way cities are loud. Sirens, coffee shops, people who didn't know my name. Martha lived in a block of apartments that smelled like lavender and old paper. She opened the door in slippers and a cardigan, and for a moment I saw the woman who'd balanced our books and balanced my father when his hands trembled. She led us to a narrow kitchen table and sat without preamble. "Your pa asked me to keep things," she said, and her voice folded around that sentence like a secret. "You told him to hide it," I said. "Why?" My voice surprised me with its softness. Martha's eyes were a map of weathered roads. "Your father thought if the papers existed, folks could be reminded. That symbols last longer than threats. I kept copies. Signed receipts. Notes. Voices I recorded when I could." She pulled a battered recorder from a tin box and pressed play. A man's voice filled the tiny room, Clay's, warm and oily, talking about traffic studies, then about needing a clean line to the parcel, then about payments that would be routed through an LLC that no one would trace. My hands went numb. The proof was not a rumor. It was a man explaining how he'd steal the town. Fiona leaned forward, eyes fierce. "This is enough to bring a federal investigator in. We have dates, signatures, audio." Martha handed over a small envelope, copies of ledgers and a photograph of Clay with a developer, dated years before. She tapped my arm. "I kept one rule. Don't be the first to pull the trigger. But I always kept the hammer ready." A hammer. I thought of my father's hands on the plow, of the barn roof that kept rain from stealing our crops. I thought of the brick through my window, of the midnight visitor, of Eli's hollow eyes. We left with a satchel heavy with paper and something heavier in my chest, hope gone metallic and dangerous. On the highway, Fiona set up a secure channel, voice low as she explained next steps, redundant copies, encrypted drops, a contact in the Herald's legal team who'd sit on the story until they had everything. I texted Eli a picture of the worn recorder and the envelope. No reply. A line of small gray dots that never formed into words. Traffic thickened as we neared the city edge. Fiona checked her phone, then swore under her breath. "What is it?" I asked. She tilted the screen. A photo had come through. A parking lot. A car. A license plate. Fiona's face went stone. "That's Clay's plate. 5 minutes ago, at the mill," she said. "He knows you were there." My stomach dropped into a place that made me dizzy. "We should call it in," I said. "Police. Backup." Fiona didn't look at me. "The sheriff answers to him." Her fingers flew. "We go to Plan B. We move fast. We get copies onto servers out of state. We get a secure line to the Herald. We don't stop." We found a cheap motel with fake palm trees out front and an ancient Wi-Fi password. Fiona worked like a woman who sees the coast and rows, unfazed by the waves. I kept watching the door, watching every car, listening for a sound that meant someone was coming. At 4:12 p.m., I stepped outside to clear my head. A man across the lot tipped his hat. Nothing more than a nod, but the way his shoulders were set made my skin prickle. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Leave town and forget. Sunday. My hands trembled long enough for the keys to clatter on the motel railing. Back inside, Fiona zipped through scans and uploaded files to 3 different servers. She smiled once. Small. Fierce. "We're live to the legal team." Martha's voice had been feathered into each file like a lifeline. I should have felt safer. Instead, the world tightened like a fist around my throat. Fiona checked her messages and then went pale. "Someone's at the motel office," she said. "Says they need to talk to the woman staying in room 12. My heart stuttered. "You're not alone, F. I'll go." She hissed my name, sharp. "No, you hide the originals. I'll handle this." She grabbed her jacket and left with keys slapping like a warning. 15 minutes later, Fiona's car returned, but not alone. Two men lingered in the driver's seat, someone in the back. The driver's window cracked. She wobbled out and leaned on the hood, breathing fast. Her eyes searched mine, and for a flicker I saw pure terror. "Go," she said. "Now." Before I could answer, a figure moved from the shadow of a pickup. A familiar gait, the way he relaxed one shoulder when he smiled. Eli. My relief exploded into something sharp and acrid. He walked up slow, face open, hand out like a man coming home. "Draven." I opened my mouth. Fury, questions, betrayal tangled into one. But before I could speak, a new sound cracked the air. Two doors slamming somewhere down the lot, boots thudding, and headlights like knives sweeping the motel. Fiona screamed, a short, torn sound, and then a hand clapped over her mouth. Two men moved with practiced speed, dragging her toward the pickup. Eli didn't move. He watched the men as if he were a man watching a play he'd already rehearsed. His face was blank, not surprised, not horrified. Blank. My legs turned to stone. I ran. A hand caught my shoulder. Rough leather glove. A man's voice said, "Drop the bag, lady. You don't want to make this worse." Something ripped from my grip. The satchel with Martha's ledger. It slid across the asphalt and skittered under a car. I dove for it. Boots stepped down on my back. I tasted dust and metal, and then the motel lights swelled like suns. Eli's voice suddenly loud and close in my ear. "Draven, don't." I turned my head and saw him there, hand buried in his jacket. He looked at me, not with the man I married, but with the man Clay needed. He said, soft and fatal, "You can still walk away." Fiona's muffled cry was a cord pulling inside me. I felt something in me, a line snap, a wire that had held fear and hope together. I pushed up and saw Eli's hand flash. A gun. The world narrowed to a single point of heat. Time slowed. The muzzle glinted under the motel lights, aimed not at the men dragging Fiona, but at me. "Eli?" I whispered, my throat raw. "Don't." His hand trembled, just a twitch. But it was enough. I knew the war inside him hadn't ended yet. But hesitation was a luxury I couldn't afford. I dropped flat, gravel scraping my cheek, and the gunshot tore the air above. Sparks flew off the motel railing. My ears rang. Fiona screamed against the palm smothering her mouth. The men shoved her toward the pickup, cursing as the scene unraveled. I lunged sideways, snatched the satchel from under the car, and rolled behind a concrete post. Pages spilled like frightened birds, ledgers, receipts. My father's handwriting fluttering against asphalt. Eli shouted, "Stop!" But I couldn't tell who he meant, me or them. Another man cursed. The pickup's door slammed, tires screeched. In that second, Fiona broke free, just long enough to hurl herself toward me, kicking one captor square in the knee. He howled. She hit the ground hard, crawling, fingers bloodied on the gravel. I grabbed her arm and yanked her behind the post. The satchel thumped between us, papers scattering in the night wind. Eli stood 10 feet away, gun still raised, face pale and furious. "You don't understand," he shouted. "They'll kill you, Draven. They'll kill us both." I felt the heat of my rage steady my hands. "No, Eli," I said. "They already killed us the night you chose them." The gun wavered. For a moment I thought he'd lower it. But headlights flared. The SUV roared back into the lot, Harlan leaning out the window, voice dripping venom. "Enough games. Take her down." Security lunged forward. Eli jerked sideways, torn between firing and shielding me. He chose neither. He froze. I shoved Fiona toward the truck. "Go!" We sprinted, dodging between cars as bullets cracked the air, shattering mirrors, punching holes into metal. Adrenaline burned like fire. My lungs screamed, but my legs didn't stop. We dove into the Ford, doors slamming just as a bullet punched the rear glass into diamonds. The engine coughed, stuttered, then roared awake. I floored it, gravel spraying. The SUV lurched behind us, headlights locking on like a predator. Fiona clutched the satchel to her chest, her voice a rasp. They won't stop now. I gripped the wheel until my knuckles ached. Then neither will I. The road ahead narrowed into black ribbon, trees crowding the shoulders. The SUV closed in. Headlights flared in the mirror, closer, closer. And then a sound I didn't expect. Another shot. But not at us. Glass shattered behind. The SUV swerved, a rear tire bursting. Sparks screamed as metal ground against asphalt. I glanced back. Eli stood in the motel lot, gun still raised, smoke curling from the barrel. He'd shot his own allies. For one heartbeat, relief surged. Then dread followed. Because Eli was still theirs. And now he was mine too. Fiona grabbed my arm, snapping me forward. Eyes on the road, we're not safe yet. The Ford sped into the dark, taillights carving a red scar across the night. Behind us, Ashford burned in silence, and ahead of us, the highway unrolled like a fuse waiting to be lit. The highway stretched out like a dark ribbon, the Ford groaning under every mile. Fiona sat beside me, blood drying on her knuckles, the satchel cradled in her lap like an infant. Neither of us spoke for a long time. The silence was thick with what we'd seen. Eli's gun, Harlan's order, the brick through my window, the weight of my father's ledgers. Finally, Fiona broke it. Eli shot at them, not you. I tightened my grip on the wheel. Not yet. Her glance was sharp. You think he'll come back to you? I laughed, bitter. Eli doesn't come back. He only circles. Around Clay, around Pike, around me. The road signs ticked by, Columbus one way, Louisville another. Each arrow pointed to a future, none guaranteed. We need safety, Fiona said. Somewhere off-grid long enough to piece this together, somewhere they won't look. I thought of the farm, the barn that had held generations, the attic where my father's truth still lingered. I shook my head. Ashford's not safe. Not anymore. Fiona tapped her laptop. Then the city. Big enough to hide. Loud enough that whispers get drowned. But my gut twisted. Clay thrived on whispers. He owned them. Turned them into power. If I vanished into the city, I'd be another name swallowed by noise. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. Sunday. Final warning. After that, it's not land we take. Fiona read over my shoulder, jaw set. That's not a threat about property. That's personal. I pulled over onto the shoulder, engine ticking in protest. The night smelled of asphalt and cold grass. They're escalating, I whispered. They won't stop at rezoning. They'll burn me out if they have to. Fiona closed her laptop with a snap. Then we stop hiding. We go louder. National loud. Her words lit something in me. Fear and fire all tangled. To take them down, I'd have to burn bridges, maybe the whole damn town. The thought hollowed me out, but also steadied me. Headlights flared in the rear view, a car slowing down. I tensed. They found us. But the car eased by, just a family sedan, taillights blinking into the dark. My chest unclenched, but only halfway. Fiona touched my arm. You need to decide. Do we run or do we fight? The word slipped out before I could cage it. Fight. Her smile was thin, but fierce. Good. Then we go to Columbus. I'll get us a secure hotel. I'll line up Herald editors tomorrow. I nodded, shifting the Ford back into gear. The road unspooled again, this time with a direction. But as we crossed the county line, a figure stepped out of the ditch, illuminated by our headlights. He raised both hands. Not a weapon, just surrender. Eli. His face was ghost pale, shirt ripped, gun still dangling at his side. He looked at me with eyes I couldn't read. Plea or trap, I couldn't tell. Fiona swore under her breath, "Don't stop." But my foot faltered on the brake. Because in that moment, with the road pulling me one way and Eli standing broken in the beam, I realized, whichever choice I made would change everything. The Ford's headlights froze Eli in white light. He looked like a ghost returned, ragged and unsteady, the gun hanging loose at his side. "Don't stop," Fiona hissed. It's a trap. But my foot pressed the brake anyway. Tires squealed, gravel spitting. The car shuddered to a halt 10 yards from him. Eli raised his hands higher, voice breaking across the hood. "Draven, please, hear me out." I rolled the window down a crack. "Say one wrong word and I drive through you." His face crumpled. "I shot them. I helped you. You saw it. I couldn't let them take you." "Not good enough," I snapped. "You aimed at me first." Fiona leaned forward, sharp as a blade. "He's stalling. Get back in the car." Eli's eyes darted to her, then back to me. "She doesn't understand. Clay has files, contracts, payouts, blackmail. He's buried deep. If you take him down without me, he'll bury you too." I clenched the wheel. "And why would I trust you?" "Because I know where he keeps them," Eli said quickly. "And because—" His voice cracked. "Because I can't lose you, Draven. Not like this." The words dug into old wounds, places I'd tried to cauterize. Part of me wanted to slam the gas, leave him choking in dust. Another part, the part that remembered mason jar flowers on the porch, wanted to believe. Fiona shook her head. "He's poison. He's part of them. Don't give him a second chance to sell you out." The night pressed close. Frogs croaked in the ditch, and my heartbeat filled the silence between us. Finally, I pushed the door open and stepped into the cold. Gravel crunched beneath my boots as I faced Eli across the beam of headlights. "Show me," I said. "If you really want redemption, prove it. Take me to the files." His relief came like a flood. Too fast. Too desperate. He nodded, stuffing the gun back into his waistband like he wanted me to forget it was ever aimed at me. Fiona slammed her hand against the dashboard. "Draven, this is suicide." I turned back to her. "Then stay, or come." "But I'm going." Her jaw clenched, but she grabbed the satchel and slid out of the car. "I'm not letting you walk into this alone." Eli glanced between us, eyes flicking with tension. "We have to move fast. Clay's got men watching his office, but his second stash, he keeps it at the old grain tower. No one goes there after dark." The words chilled me. That tower was where my father once warned me never to play. "Too many ways to fall," he'd said. Now it was where the truth waited. Or another trap. Eli extended his hand. "Trust me this once, please." I didn't take it, but I nodded. The three of us moved into the night together, headlights fading behind us, the grain tower rising like a black skeleton on the horizon. And in the pit of my stomach, I knew. Whether Eli was my salvation or my ruin, I was about to find out. The tower rose against the night like a warning. Concrete bones, rusted ladders, black windows gaping like sockets. Even in the dark, it felt watched. Eli led, flashlight cutting narrow cones of light. Fiona followed close, satchel strapped tight across her shoulder. I came last. Every step a question. "This place is condemned," I whispered. "Exactly," Eli said. "No one comes here." We entered through a side door eaten by rust. Inside, the air smelled of dust and wet metal. Our footsteps echoed too loud. Fiona scanned the shadows. "Where?" "Second floor," Eli answered. "Maintenance room, behind a false wall." We climbed, stairs groaning under us. I kept waiting for voices, for Harlan's men to leap from the dark, but only pigeons stirred, wings rustling like whispers. At the maintenance room, Eli dropped to his knees and pulled at a warped panel. Wood splintered. Behind it, a steel lockbox. He looked at me once before entering the code. The lid clicked open. Inside, files, contracts, payoffs, receipts, stacks of photos, and audio cassettes with dates scrawled in Clay's handwriting. Fiona's eyes widened. "This is it. This is everything." I reached in, my hands trembling, when a sound cracked the silence. Boots on the stairwell. Not pigeons, not echoes. Fiona's face went white. They followed us. Eli slammed the box shut, grabbed it under one arm. "This way!" he barked. We ran, weaving through corridors, dust choking our throats. Voices chased us. Harlan's men, calling, laughing, confident. "Thought you could hide, North?" one jeered. We burst onto a catwalk high above the grain silos. The metal groaned, shifting with our weight. Below yawned black emptiness. Eli shoved the lockbox into my arms. "Don't drop it." The catwalk shuddered. Then, with a screech, part of it collapsed. Steel tore like paper. Fiona screamed as the floor gave way under her. I lunged, catching her wrist. Her feet dangled over the abyss, the satchel slipping down her shoulder. "Draven," she gasped. "Hold on!" Behind me, boots pounded closer. Harlan's voice rang out. "You've got nowhere to run!" My muscles burned as I fought to pull Fiona up. The lockbox slammed against my ribs, heavy as betrayal. And in that moment, with Fiona's life in my grip and the proof of corruption clutched to my chest, I realized I might not be able to save both. Fiona dangled in the dark void, her scream echoing up the silos. Her fingers clawed at mine, slick with sweat. The lockbox dug into my ribs, sharp edges bruising. "Pull me up!" she gasped. Behind me, boots thundered closer. Harlan's voice carried, smug and venomous. "Let her go, Draven. You've already lost." Eli barked back. "Shut up!" His gun cracked twice, the bullets sparking off steel. The men scattered for cover, curses ringing through the tower. But the catwalk shook, bolts whining. I felt it in my bones. It wouldn't hold long. "Draven!" Fiona's voice was raw. "Don't you dare drop me." I gritted my teeth, shifted the lockbox under one arm and used the other to haul her. Every muscle screamed. The strap of the satchel slipped further down her shoulder. If the bag fell, the evidence would scatter into the dark. Gone. If Fiona fell, I couldn't think that. "Take my other hand," I shouted. Her eyes were wild, terrified, but she reached. I locked on and dragged, inch by inch, until her chest scraped the catwalk's edge. With one last heave, she tumbled beside me, gasping, her satchel thudding against metal. Alive. The relief lasted one heartbeat. Then the catwalk shrieked again and gave way behind us. Steel ripped, plunging into darkness. Only a thin stretch of grated walkway remained, quivering under our weight. "Move!" Eli shouted. "Stairs!" We stumbled forward, dragging the lockbox, papers spilling from Fiona's torn satchel. Gunfire snapped behind us, ricocheting off the rail. At the stairwell door, Eli shoved us through first, slamming it shut behind. The clang echoed like a final bell. We bolted down the steps, hearts slamming in rhythm. When we burst into the night, the air felt colder, sharper, like we'd been reborn in frost. But headlights flared across the lot. A second SUV idled there, engine rumbling, and from it stepped Clay Weston himself. The mayor's suit gleamed even under floodlights, his belt buckle catching the glow. He clapped slowly, the sound mocking, hollow. "Well," he drawled, "if it isn't Ashford's most stubborn daughter." My chest heaved, breath steaming. The lockbox felt like an anchor in my arms. Clay's grin widened. "You really think the Herald will save you? By the time those papers hit daylight, you'll be dust. And your farm?" "Another parking lot." Fiona stepped forward, chin raised despite her shaking. "Not this time, Clay. The whole country's about to see what you've done." Clay's eyes glittered. "Then I suppose we'd better make sure you don't leave this lot alive." He snapped his fingers. Doors slammed open. Men stepped out. Guns gleamed. I looked at Fiona, at Eli, at the tower looming behind us. One choice beat like a drum in my chest. Run. Or fight. Right here. Right now. The floodlights carved the lot into a stage. Clay stood center, smug in his suit, his men fanning out like shadows with steel teeth. The cold air tasted of dust and gasoline. Eli stepped forward, gun still in hand, voice sharp. "Clay, enough!" The mayor's grin never faltered. "You think you're saving her? You're just signing your death warrant too, son." Fiona clutched the satchel, knuckles white. "We have the evidence. Every contract, every tape. It's over." Clay laughed, low and cruel. "Sweetheart, nothing's over until I say it is." He gestured. Two men advanced. My pulse pounded, but I raised my voice steady. This town raised me, Clay. You think they'll forgive you when they hear the truth? He sneered. They'll never hear it. Ashford belongs to me. The men surged closer. Eli raised his gun, firing. One man dropped with a cry. Chaos erupted. Muzzle flashes, shouts, metal clanging off concrete. I grabbed Fiona's arm and ran, dragging her toward the old grain tower's shadow. Bullets sparked against the steel siding. The lockbox thudded in my arms like a second heartbeat. Eli covered us, shouting, "Go, I'll hold them." For a split second, he looked like the man I once loved, before betrayal, before Clay. We dove behind a rusted tractor. Fiona ripped open the satchel, shoving papers into my hands. "Split it," she panted. "If one of us falls, the story survives." I shoved half the files under my jacket, the rest stuffed back in her bag. My fingers shook, but my voice steadied. "They won't silence us. Not this time." Clay's voice cut through the chaos, furious now. "Don't let her leave!" Engines roared. Another SUV pulling into the lot. Reinforcements. We were outnumbered. Pinned. Fiona gripped my wrist. "We can't stay here. We need a diversion." My eyes locked on the fuel drums stacked near the tower. Rusted, leaking, dangerous. The thought flared. Terrifying. Inevitable. "If those blow," I whispered, "they'll run for their lives." Fiona's gaze followed mine. She swallowed. "And us?" "We run faster," I said. I crawled to the drums, struck steel against steel until sparks flew. The first flare of fire caught the fumes with a hiss. Clay's men shouted, panicked, retreating as flames licked skyward. The air filled with heat and gunpowder. "Now!" I screamed. Fiona and I sprinted through smoke, clutching the files. Eli covered our retreat, firing wild, his voice ragged. "Go, Draven!" Behind us, the explosion ripped the night apart, fireball roaring, glass shattering, the tower groaning as if the earth itself was done keeping secrets. We hit the ground hard, dust and ash raining over us. The world rang in my ears. Through the haze, I saw Clay stumbling, face twisted in rage, shouting words I couldn't hear. Then I saw Eli, limping, gun falling from his grip, flames reflecting in his eyes. He looked at me once. Like apology, like goodbye. And then the smoke swallowed him whole. The blast rattled the ground long after the flames rose. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance, but not close enough to save, or to stop, what had happened. Fiona and I staggered to our feet, coughing, our clothes dusted gray. The satchel strap dug into her shoulder. My jacket bulged with files pressed to my ribs. The lockbox lay twisted near the tower's ruins, blackened but intact. I stumbled toward it, fingers trembling as I touched the scorched metal. It was hot, alive, humming with the weight of every secret Clay thought he buried. Fiona pressed her palm to my arm. "We can't stay. Clay's men will regroup. The fire won't keep them back forever." She was right. But my eyes kept scanning the smoke, searching. "Eli," I rasped. "He was there. He helped." Her silence told me what she thought. He had chosen his side too late. We hauled the lockbox into the truck, the Ford's engine growling like it knew the urgency. As we sped onto the highway, flames shrank in the mirror, a burning scar against the night. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe we had enough. Contracts, tapes, ledgers, photographs, Ashford's sins in black and white. But with belief came dread. Because proof doesn't kill corruption, exposure does, and exposure requires trust. At a roadside diner, neon buzzing, Fiona spread the documents across the booth. She photographed everything, uploaded to encrypted servers, her hands steady even as mine shook. "We go to Columbus in the morning," she said. "We meet the Herald. We hand them everything." I nodded, but my chest was tight. "Clay won't wait for morning." As if on cue, my phone buzzed. Another unknown number. The message was only 2 words. "Found you." My blood froze. Through the diner window, headlights swept across the lot. 2 black SUVs rolled in, tires crunching gravel. Fiona stuffed the files back into the satchel, eyes fierce. No more running. We get this to the press or we die trying. I grabbed her hand, knuckles tight, my voice a vow. Then we die fighting, not hiding. The diner lights flickered as the engines idled outside, shadows stretching long across the glass. The door creaked open. Clay Weston stepped in, suit singed at the sleeve, eyes burning brighter than the fire we'd left behind. He smiled like the devil himself had risen from the ashes. "Miss North," he drawled, "you've made quite the mess, but it ends tonight." The diner smelled of coffee and grease, but under the fluorescent lights it felt like a cage. Clay stood at the door, flanked by 4 men, guns bulging at their waists. Behind the counter, the cook froze. A couple in a booth ducked low, whispering frantic prayers. Fiona pressed against me in the corner booth, satchel tight to her chest. Her eyes flicked to the back exit, then to me. No words, but I understood. We might not get another chance. Clay's smile was a razor. "You think those files will make you a hero? All they'll do is bury this town in scandal. People don't thank the ones who set fires. They curse them." I rose slowly, heart hammering, lockbox heavy in my grip. "They'll thank me when they see who lit the match first. You, Clay." The mayor's laugh echoed off chrome and tile. "Draven North, always her daddy's daughter. Too stubborn to know when to quit." Eli staggered in from the smoke outside, face smeared with ash, limping. For a heartbeat, Clay's men hesitated. Whose side was he on? So did I. But Eli raised his gun. "Back off, Clay. This ends now." Clay's eyes narrowed. "Traitor." He flicked 2 fingers. Gun snapped up. The diner filled with tension, thick enough to choke. One wrong move, and bullets would shred every wall, every bystander. Fiona squeezed my hand under the table. Her whisper trembled but sharp. "We go live. Now." I understood. She slid her phone onto the table, camera already rolling, streaming straight to the Herald contact. Clay's face glowed in the screen, every sneer captured. I raised my voice. "Smile for the country, Clay. They're watching." For the first time, the mayor's mask cracked. "Shut it off," he barked. The cook ducked lower. The couple whimpered. Clay's men shifted, uneasy now that their boss's threats were on camera. "Tell them," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Tell the truth about the contracts, the bribes, the threats." Clay's face twisted. "You think a live stream will save you? All it proves is you poked a bear, and bears kill." He lunged forward. A gunshot split the air. Eli fired, grazing Clay's arm. Chaos erupted. The cook screamed. Dishes shattered. I dove behind the counter with Fiona, clutching the satchel. Bullets chewed into neon and chrome, sparks raining. Clay howled in pain, clutching his arm, blood blooming through his sleeve. Still he snarled, eyes like knives. "You'll die screaming, Draven." Fiona shoved the phone into my hands, whispering, "Don't let it stop streaming." I nodded, crouched low, red light blinking on the screen. We had the truth on record now. But we were still trapped in a diner surrounded by men with guns. And I knew the only way out would be through fire. Gunfire shredded the diner's chrome walls. Neon fizzled, sparks raining over sticky linoleum. Every shout, every bullet was caught by Fiona's streaming phone, red light blinking like a heartbeat. Clay bellowed, blood seeping through his sleeve. "Kill the feed, now!" One of his men lunged toward us behind the counter. Eli moved first. His shot rang out, dropping the man before he could reach. The crack echoed like thunder, and for a heartbeat, silence followed. Fiona grabbed my shoulder, eyes wild. "We can't stay pinned. Back exit, move." We crawled low, glass crunching under our knees, clutching satchel and phone. Bullets splintered stools inches above our heads. At the kitchen door, Eli kicked it open. Cold night air rushed in, heavy with smoke and gasoline. Behind us, Clay roared like a cornered beast. "You'll burn with this town, Draven." Outside, the lot blazed. Flames from the tower explosion had spread, licking at the SUVs. Heat scorched our skin as we ran. Eli fired into the air, covering us. "Go! Go!" Fiona clutched my hand, pulling me toward the ford. But as we reached it, Clay's voice cut through the chaos. "You think anyone will believe you? You're nothing but a bitter widow with a grudge." The word widow pierced deeper than his bullets. He knew. He wanted me to bleed from the inside. I turned, fury white hot. Phone in one hand, files pressed to my chest. I shouted so the stream caught every word. "I am Draven North, daughter of this soil, and I will not let you steal another inch of it." Clay's face twisted. Rage and fear tangled. For the first time, he looked less like a ruler and more like a man cornered by truth. Then, the groan of metal. The diner's neon sign collapsed, crashing onto the lot in a shower of sparks. Flames whooshed higher, swallowing the night. Fiona shoved me into the truck. Eli slid into the driver's seat, gunning the engine. Tires screeched, smoke billowed. We tore out of the lot, live stream still rolling, Clay's shouts fading behind us into fire and ruin. On the highway, Fiona held the phone steady, her voice steady despite the tremor. "It's out there now. Everyone saw. They can't bury this anymore." I leaned back, heart hammering, ash clinging to my hair. The files were scorched, blood-specked, but alive, like us. And yet, even as the city lights rose ahead, I knew the war wasn't done. Clay still had reach, still had men, still had venom. But so did I. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was fighting. And I wasn't stopping until every lie in Ashford was turned to ash. Morning broke over Columbus like a judgment. Gray sky, restless traffic, a city that didn't know Ashford existed and was about to. Fiona and I walked into the Herald's glass tower, clothes still smelling of smoke. The receptionist's eyes widened at our state, but she didn't ask. We were expected. In a corner office, the editor waited, sleeves rolled up, coffee steaming. Fiona spread the files across his desk. Scorched contracts, faded ledgers, audio cassettes, her phone replaying Clay's fury from the live stream. The editor leaned back, whistling low. "This isn't a story, it's a reckoning." I sat stiff, voice rough. "Will they believe it?" He met my eyes. "It's not about belief, it's evidence. And once it's out, no one can unsee it." The words trembled through me like an aftershock. Clay's power wasn't gone yet, but it was cracked, bleeding into daylight. By noon, the Herald pushed the first article. "Mayor of Ashford tied to decades of corruption, leaked documents show." Within hours, national outlets picked it up. By evening, my phone buzzed with strangers, neighbors, reporters, lawyers, voices finally daring to speak. Ashford had woken. But not all voices were kind. Threats flooded too. Promises that I'd pay for shaming the town, for dragging names through dirt. For every cheer, there was a curse. That night, I stood at the motel window, headlights sweeping the highway. I thought of Eli, of his last look through the smoke. Apology and goodbye tangled. He'd saved me, but too late to save us. Fiona touched my shoulder. "You did it," she said softly. "You cut out the rot." I shook my head. "I just exposed it. Cutting it out. That's for Ashford now." Silence held us. The fight wasn't only mine anymore. It belonged to every farmer whose land was threatened, every family silenced, every voice drowned by Clay's money. And maybe that was enough. Weeks later, Clay was indicted. Harlan fled. The farm remained mine, not untouched, but standing, stubborn, like me. I walked the fields one evening, wind combing through corn, sky burning gold. Ash still clung to the soil where fire had licked, but green pushed through anyway. I spoke aloud though no one was there. "Daddy, it's done. They won't take this land. Not now. Not ever." Tears stung, but they weren't bitter. They tasted like survival. Like victory. I wasn't just Draven North. Widow, betrayed, broken. I was the voice Clay couldn't silence. The proof Fiona carried to the world. The fire Eli couldn't extinguish. Ashford had tried to bury me, But I grew roots in the ashes, and I rose.